Record. Welcome. I'm Bernice Ross, the CEO and President of BrokerageUpandRealEstateCoach.com, and I'm very happy to welcome back Kim Ades. She is the president and founder of Frame of Mind Coaching. She's one of my favorite guests, and she has a brand new book out. Kim, let's take a look at it.
It's this, but it's not brand new. It's a brand new edition, but it's not brand new.
Oh, it's a brand new edition of your book.
It's a brand new edition.
So what you focus on grows, and this is so in alignment with what I believe in terms of where you put your energy is what you create. So Kim, thank you for being with us today. And what motivated you to write this book to begin with?
So again, this is not a brand new book. It is absolutely a new edition. So this original book was written a few years back. And let me just tell you a very quick story. I was slated to speak at a NAR event, National Association of Realtors, the big yearly conference. And, you know, you have to submit your proposal. I submitted my proposal. I got accepted. And when I got accepted, they said, "Do you have a book?" I said, "Of course I have a book," but I didn't.
I will have one, but I don't have it yet.
This is like 6 months. Like I had 6 months. I'm looking at the calendar. In 6 months, I'll have a book. No problem. Except I completely forgot. 2 weeks before the event, they reached out to me and said, "Well, we're ready for your book now. You know, if you could just, bring it with you when you come and speak in 2 weeks, that would be perfect." I freaked out. So I decided that in 2 weeks, I was going to write, complete, finish, edit, publish the book, which I did.
How in heaven's name did you do that? I mean, it takes me a year to do a book. My goodness.
And on top of that, so I think it was like the yearly conferences in November, I had just gotten engaged and there was just so much going on at that time, but I wrote the book. So that's why we needed another edition, right? Like it needed a little freshening up.
Well, certainly this would have been a more complete edition because you will have had time to, first of all, get the feedback from the book and what you learned. So tell me kind of about the structure of the book. Is it kind of a narrative? Is it stories?
So the book is essentially a series of short stories broken up into different compartments covering, life experiences. And what it is, it's short stories that provide observations, anecdotes, experiences that I've had. Sometimes they're personal experiences, sometimes professional experiences, but experiences that present to the reader a typical scenario or an event that takes place with a very, very different perspective. And what we have found through our years of experience in coaching is that people who achieve very large goals in life typically are able to see things a little bit differently, are able to look at problems, struggles, challenges with a slightly different lens. And what this book allows the reader to do is practice that different lens that allows you to solve problems instead of struggle or sit in the middle of the problem, allows you to see the bright side of maybe something that appears dark, etc., like that. So that's what really the book is about. It's little stories that allow you to experience and practice looking at things differently.
So could you tell me a little bit more about that lens? How do you get there? I know the stories will illustrate it, but kind of your overall view of what happens in the book. If I am kind of stuck or I'm in a place where I'm feeling overwhelmed, how do I get out of that?
Well, you know what? Overwhelm is a matter of perspective, right? We see things and we say, well, we're overwhelmed because things should be different than they are. We're overwhelmed because we should be achieving more. We're overwhelmed because we're not as equipped as we would like to be. We're overwhelmed because there's a lot on our plate and we can't seem to do it effectively or efficiently. And so the overwhelm has nothing to do with what's really going on. The overwhelm has to do with how we interpret what's going on or how we interpret our ability to handle what's going on. So it has to do with the way we think about what's going on, not what's going on in and of itself. So at a very, very fundamental level, the events that are happening in the world, whether it's with a client or a house we're putting up for sale or a negotiation we're having, those are events and they're neutral. The way we interpret what's happening in those events is really what matters.
So what you're talking about is really reframing what you're experiencing, which you're calling that neutral, it may have a negative impact on you, but that negative impact is a label that you put on it that can be changed. I mean,
correct. And so even saying that it's a negative impact it has a bias, right? So it has an impact. It's just an impact. And if we define it as negative, then it becomes negative, right?
exactly. You know, this is why your company is called Frame of Mind Coaching.
That's right.
About
That's right.
changing your frame of mind. So,
That's right. And really, just for one brief moment, what we do is we help leaders achieve extraordinary success by looking at how they think and helping them think in ways that are aligned with their goals.
well, I tell you what, can you share a couple of stories that kind of illustrate this? Because this notion of reframing things, I know for many years I've trained, you know, especially managers and people who are broker owners, when one of their agents comes in and they're really whining about everything that's wrong, and you just say, and it gives you pause for a moment. Can you tell me one thing that's going right? And that's
Good.
the reframe moment.
Right. That's the turnaround effect. That's called
Yeah.
pivoting. Okay. So
Yeah,
I'll tell you a story.
Share some stories.
I was coaching a very, very successful real estate professional. He was one of the top performers, not only in his market, but overall in the whole company. And he was the type of guy who would go to work every morning and stand in a closet, literally a closet, and make 100 cold calls a day, every single day. Like really determined, type A, highly, highly driven individual. And so he would tell his clients, hey, you know, you can't call me after 7 o'clock because I need my downtime. I need to refresh. I need to regroup so that I can be my best for you. Well, one day he gets a text message from his clients after 7 o'clock and he loses it, right? He just loses it. And basically he tells them, hey, you can't do that. What ends up happening is he loses the client and he loses all referrals that may have come from the client thereafter. So what was really going on? What was really going on is he interpreted their behavior as disrespectful. He interpreted their actions as being like they weren't listening to me. They weren't paying attention to my instructions. They weren't considering what else was on my plate. But perhaps they were just excited. Perhaps, you know, they saw a house that they wanted more information on. But more importantly than that, he also had a belief. The belief was, I have to answer my text. Right? And so very often, particularly in the real estate industry, we're glued to our phones and we feel like we're at the mercy of whatever's coming in, and we aren't necessarily. And so what really had to change for him is his perception that they were actually not being disrespectful, but they were engaged clients, which is great to have. The second thing is that just because they texted him didn't mean that he instantly had to stop everything he was doing. He had to stop resting, and that he had to right away respond to their request. So that idea of, hey, you know what, you're perceiving it as something negative, but maybe it's not negative at all. And maybe you don't have to jump the minute the phone beeps. And that's an issue that you need to contend with and has absolutely nothing to do with your clients whatsoever. So that's an idea, one kind of story where, you know, this gentleman had very strong feelings about what was going on, and those feelings were 100% generated by the way he was thinking about it.
You know, my husband Byron likes to say slain by an expectation. And the thing I'm hearing, or this particular person that's in the story, he had an expectation because he said, don't text or call me after 7, that people wouldn't do that. And, you know, maybe they just forgot.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, and, you know, whenever we get angry, I think you hit on something so important, Kim, that anger is usually something that we see in ourselves, but we get angry at our own behavior, but it's easier to put it on someone else.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll tell you another story. It's a story of, quite a while ago, my son was fairly young. He decided to have a dance party, you know, with girls and boys at the party. And he had this party, you know, he had it like a DJ, not a real DJ, but he had a DJ, lots of food. Everyone was down in the basement, you know, et cetera. And he was super happy with his party. And, you know, I asked him the question, how do you think it went? He's like, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask my friends what they think about it. I'm going to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, what did you think of my party? And I thought to myself, oh my God, that's pretty bold, right? Like, that's unbelievable. Like, you know, what if he doesn't get the feedback he wants? But anyway, he went to school the next day. He said, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, what did you think of my party? And they all gave him like 11s and 12s. He was thrilled. He was thrilled with the outcome, with the feedback, with the results. And I thought to myself, wow, why did I think that was such a big deal? Why did that feel so scary to me? How often are we afraid to ask for feedback because we're expecting, you talked about expectations, negative feedback all the time, right? So oftentimes we'd rather like not ask and not get the feedback than be faced with the potential of negative feedback, rather than viewing it as the potential for positive feedback or the potential to learn what you could do to improve. We look at it as, an attack that we tend to want to shield ourselves from.
You make so many good points on this. I know so many speakers, myself included, you hate reading the reviews. And if there's 99 good ones and there's one negative, where do you focus?
Yes, exactly.
On that one
Exactly
negative.
right. Yeah.
And I don't remember who said this, is that whether I win or lose, I always learn.
Yeah.
And that, you just mentioned that, when you're going through something, you make a mistake, you need to own it and learn from it. And when you do that, you can't lose. It may not be any fun going through it.
Right.
But so to kind of, flesh out here a little bit more about the book, your book's really also about leadership. Could you say a little bit more about that aspect of the book?
Well, you know what? Leaders have a different perspective on things, and leaders, let me take a step back for a moment. I have a very strong belief that great parents are also great leaders. And interestingly enough, while I coach executives, leaders, highly driven individuals, top performers, whether they're in real estate or sales or whatever, I coach the elite, right? Like I coach those people who say, hey, I don't want a mediocre life. I really want an incredible, extraordinary life. And 9 out of 10 times while I'm coaching them and they come to me for professional development, there's almost every single time we talk about how they parent and their children and their challenges with their children, which is very interesting, right? And so what I have discovered is that people who are strong in the area of parenting and who take the time to strengthen their parenting skills tend to go back and apply those skills to their leadership. And so this book covers a little bit of that, is how do we deal with some of the parenting challenges we have? So just to give you a little bit of an example, I hear parents say, hey, my kid is lazy. He's sitting on the couch all day long. Hey, my kid is, like into sports, and anytime he fails, he feels really, really terrible, horrible, bad, and he's beating himself up. And I know I'm going to live through like 3 or 4 days of misery just because of this. Or, hey, my kid his head is in his phone and, I can't really reach him. I can't communicate with him. Or my daughter, she's sassy. She's not answering me nicely, or whatever it is, right? And so the question becomes, so what do you do about that? Do you address it? Do you sit down with your daughter and say, hey, I don't like the way you're talking to me. Don't talk to me like that. Do you sit down with your son and say, hey, like, you're a bum, you're sitting on the couch and you're lazy and, you're not going to amount to anything? Like, what do you do? What do you do with your kids when they're not behaving as you would like them to behave? And
that's $1 million question. Okay, what's the answer, Cam?
The answer is that your kids weren't born on this planet to serve you. They weren't born to meet your expectations and follow your rules and do whatever it takes to please you, although we would like that, wouldn't we? But that's not why they were here. They are here because to explore their lives, to explore their environment, relationships, to figure out who they are in this world. Right? But when they behave in ways that don't suit us, that rattles us. It creates tension for us. It creates discomfort for us. Now, let me pause for a minute. Doesn't that sound a lot like leadership? When our agents don't behave how we want them to, when the people in our lives don't behave how we want them to, it rattles us. It creates a reason for us to be disturbed and, not feeling so good. Discomfort. Right? That's how we feel. And so there's a parallel here that I'm trying to point out. And really what we need to do as parents is focus exclusively on those things that our kids are doing right, on their amazing talents, on their skills, on their characteristics, on their personality traits that are awesome and amazing, and focus exclusively on those. Even though maybe some of those other things that they're demonstrating are loud and obnoxious and hard to ignore, we need to exert a mental muscle to focus on those things that are good and right about our children. And when we do that, those things expand. By the same token, as leaders, as managers, as real estate professionals, we want to do that with our clients, with our colleagues, with our agents, etc., right? With our suppliers, with the people who serve us. We want to focus on what's good and right about them so that those aspects can expand. It's hard to do. It requires a lot of self-discipline.
Well, that's just such a huge takeaway, because it's the title of the book, what you focus on expands. And,
what you focus on grows.
Grows. Okay. Excuse me. What you focus on grows. And this is, there's a saying, what you do is what you get. So when you praise your kid, you'll get more activity that they get praised, they want to win with you.
Exactly.
Sometimes they're pushing the boundaries, and that's part of it when they're, they get older, but that's
their job. That is their job, right? Like, would you want a kid who's totally obedient?
Some people think they would.
They would for like 5 minutes. And then when they grow up and they find that they're still obedient, they're kind of like, hey, where's your backbone? Why are you a doormat, right? So like, parents forget what it is that they ultimately want with their kids or for their kids. And then they behave in ways that demonstrate the fact that they forgot.
It strikes me, we've had such a huge generation of helicopter parents who, try to protect their kids from everything. And when they do that, you get exactly what you're describing now. They're still living in my basement at age 35.
Right. And I say to the parents is like, look in the mirror, you're creating this, right? It's very interesting.
My dad had a saying, he said, as long as you put your feet under my table, you're going to damn well do what I tell you to do. I was ready to get out of there as soon as I could.
Well, that's a whole other story. We could talk about that for hours, but.
Well, to kind of wrap up for today, Kim, this has been great. What is kind of your key takeaway for our viewers today?
The key takeaway is, look, like if you're living a life where you're not 100% satisfied, where you're thinking, hey, I should be performing better. My closing ratio should be higher, et cetera, whatever it is, where I want something different than what I have. A lot of times we jump into action. We say, okay, well, what should I do in order to experience a different life? And what I would suggest to you is, sure, you do need to do different things, but don't do them right away. Stop for a minute and ask yourself, what am I thinking? How is my thinking impacting my actions? What am I thinking that's causing me to not get there fast or efficiently? What's really getting in my way? And I would suggest to you, it's your thinking that's getting in your way. Very often people think in ways that contradict their very desires. So stop for a minute and say, what do I believe to be true about this that's standing in the way of my success?
So Kim, to kind of wrap up, where can our viewers go to get your book?
So frameofmindcoaching.com, come and check it out. We have access to the book there. Amazon is another option too, but come and learn more about us, frameofmindcoaching.com.
So thank you. Well, we've been visiting with Kim Ades. She is the founder and president of Frame of Mind Coaching. Kim, thank you for a terrific interview with a lot of really great takeaways.
Thank you. As always, it's always fun to talk to you.
Well, that was great. Flawless as always.
I don't know. I guess I'm just passionate.
So what I wanted to talk to you about, I'm getting involved in something called propertytv.io. Kevin Turner was the one who's helped me launch my radio show. He's based in Australia. I was working with Professionals Group back then. And he has like 1 million listeners to his consumer show every week. And and he's got the most listened to real estate radio show for professionals there called Ari Uncut. He's teamed up with a guy by the name of Joel Leslie, and they are launching propertytv.io. And this is in a new space. I hadn't ever heard this before. It's called OTT. It stands for over the top. And what it refers to, the original term was post-cable, but what it refers to is if you think about Real Property TV is going to be a combination like HGTV, kind of, all the real estate shows, available like Netflix, available on demand. So if you think about, they're going to be broadcasting 24/7. There will be a series of live shows, pre-tape, but they'll look like they'll be scheduled certain times. They will have something going on all 24/7. I'll be going to places like Dubai, throughout Europe, all of North America, Australasia. So it's going to be running 24/7. They are looking for content, and I think you would be ideal to do frame of mind coaching. I mean,
but does it have to be real estate related?
It is Real Property TV, so.
Yeah, that's the trick to make everything related to real estate.
Well, they have a lot of consumer stuff. So, you can talk about frame of mind without having it. It doesn't have to be real estate 24/7. So
how do I learn more? How do I learn more?
Yeah, well, they need to work out what the revenue model looks like. And
Right.
I mean, you can do this easily on Zoom. So, you're an author, and you could help people with frame of mind in terms of, everything from getting the right mindset with their kids to succeed. Yeah. I mean, the things that you normally do, but also, this whole thing about transitions in your life, whether you're going into your first home or whether you are, you're transitioning out of a marriage, and some of the things that you have to, and I mean, you could weave in something on, you can say, okay, one of the things you're going to have to address, you split up, where are you going to live? How do you work through that? I mean, there's so many different things you could do. And, if you want to do a regular show, they can probably arrange for that. Or if you just want to do things periodically and contribute, that's okay too. It's kind of whatever works with your schedule. If you're interested, I'll send you, when I find out what their models are that they're doing, this is, they're raising their first round of funds.
So who's the audience? Is it just
the audience is right now, it's about 60% consumer, 40% real estate professional. It's about he skewed a little bit more heavily towards Australia and New Zealand. They're looking for U.S. content right now, and they just didn't have the funds to really kind of go for it. And they've been bootstrapped essentially. So they've got their their agent round, I think, looks really good. And they're going for the full, what we would call Series 1 here in the States. It's different in Australia. They issued something called information memorandum, which I have never heard of. And I am, what's that? But if you're interested in playing, I'll send the information along to you.
Sure.
Yeah, I know that I've sent them your video before. This one's going to go out internationally, so these are going to, it's a great audience for your book. So I don't know if it'll,
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, my book it's kind of like it's not like the thing I'm really trying to sell. It's the thing that accompanies me more than anything else, if that makes any sense.
Understood.
Yeah.
And, but again, I think the stuff that you do on journaling, and about the issues, that, people face. Yeah.
Well, I'm actually there, and very briefly, because I actually have to run. My whole timing got messed up today, but I'm crafting a TED Talk. And so I'm really, really interested, honestly. Like, I do work with executives, entrepreneurs, like the high end, and most of them have kids. And it's so interesting because as I see them working on their parenting skills, their leadership skills improve, their businesses improve, their team building improves, like everything.
See, that cuts right into real estate, just what you just said. So those are skills that you need to run a real estate office, or skills you need to run a real estate business.
Yeah. So it's just so interesting, so fascinating. And so nobody really knows this. The essence of that TED Talk is the relationship between leadership and parenting. But I'm keen about that. That's an interesting topic for me.
Well, then maybe that's what your show is leadership and parenting.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Okay.
Well, I know you've got to run. I'm glad this went quickly, and
it always does, right?
Yeah, always does. And it's just in the can, perfect every time.
Great.
Love you, my friend.
Thank you. Say hi to Byron.
Yeah, I'll be in touch. Take care,
Okay.
Kim.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.